2016 marks the centenary of a number of important historic events, none of which with more effect for the people of Ireland than the Easter Uprising, a failed rebellion which would, like the phoenix, rise from its ashes. For centuries, a number in Ireland had been seeking independence from the rule of Great Britain, but many were content with the degree of self-governance which Ireland had enjoyed. But in 1801, when Ireland was amalgamated into the United Kingdom, its politicians were moved to Westminster, and this caused unrest within the country as Irish matters were seen as being handled by a government which the Irish had little influence over. Unrest in the country led to the 1867 Finian Uprising, which failed basically because it was badly organised. But at least this made Westminster sit up and take notice of the Irish position. Despite this, a number of bills which attempted to give Ireland home rule failed, thanks in part to the aristocracy and the rich landowners who were scared of the growing socialist movement within Ireland and fearing that they would lose their land and power. In response to these failures, nationalist groups formed militias with the purpose of gaining independence, and in response, Unionists formed their own militias, which are known today as the Ulster Volunteer Force. The nation of Ireland seemed like a powder keg waiting to explode, but before it could, an even bigger keg went off in Europe with the eruption of the First World War in 1914. The last meetings of the Commons in 1914, after years of refusal, granted Ireland home rule once again. But due to the war, this was pushed back until the end. In response to this, the nationalist leader Redmond was very keen for his volunteers to fight in the war and gain brownie points with Westminster, so that he could call in more favours after the war and gain the Irish people even more. In his manifesto he said, "The democracy of Britain listened to our appeal and have kept faith with Ireland. It is now a duty of honour for Ireland to keep faith with them." For the same reasons, the Unionists were also very keen to send their volunteers, but under the condition that they would get to form their own unit so that their cause could get the credit. Redmond, recognising this, tried to get the same, but was unsuccessful. But despite this, over the course of the war, about 180,000 national volunteers went to war under the British flag, along with around 80,000 of the Unionists who they were almost at war with in the first place. But not everyone was happy about this deal with the British. A small fringe group of more radical nationalists from these volunteers refused to enlist, claiming the name of the Irish Volunteers, and a number of these men would end up taking part in the Easter Uprising. These men, and groups such as the Irish Republican Brotherhood, or IRB, seen the war as an opportunity to gain more than home rule. They seen it as a chance for independence. The IRB sent men to Germany in order to gain support for their uprising, knowing that a revolution in British territory would be advantageous to the German war effort. The original plan was for the rising to happen in Dublin, distracting the British army on the island while the Germans landed on the west coast. But unfortunately for the rebels, the Germans were unable to commit, and so aimed to send around 20,000 captured Russian rifles, most of them Mosin Nagants, about 10 machine guns, and 1 million rounds of ammunition and explosives. Also, unfortunately for the rebels, an unlucky turn of events caused the boat carrying these supplies along with several of the conspirators to be intercepted by the navy, and so the arms had to be scuttled by the crew and lost to the bottom of the ocean. Making matters worse for the would-be rebels, the British were also informed of the plot, but for whatever reason disregarded it as being too far-fetched. Nothing seemed to have been going right for the rising, but the table was set, and nothing was going to stop it. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this, please subscribe and stay tuned for part 2 where we'll look into the Easter Rising.